a white paper that escaped control. It wasn't supposed to leave the screen. It wasn't supposed to survive scrutiny. And it definitely wasn't supposed to change the future of money. To understand why this document still matters today, we have to return to its origin, a moment when confidence in financial systems was already eroding, when trust felt borrowed, not earned, and when the idea of control began to look like a liability instead of protection. The document itself was short, technical, almost uninviting. No branding, no promises of wealth, no call to action, just a precise description of a system that removed authority from money entirely. It didn't ask institutions for approval. It didn't seek consensus from economists. It simply proposed an alternative, a peer-to-peer system where rules replaced trust, where verification replaced belief, where power dissolved into code. At first, it circulated quietly, shared among cryptographers, passed between programmers, discussed in small forums where ideas mattered more than status. Most readers dismissed it. Some misunderstood it. A few recognized its implications immediately because buried in its logic was something dangerous, not a new currency, but a new assumption that money could exist without permission. Every financial system before it depended on control. Someone decided supply. Someone enforced rules. Someone held the final authority. This proposal removed that final decision-maker entirely. Instead of hierarchy, it offered consensus. Instead of discretion, determinism. Instead of trust, proof. The timing was no accident. The world had just watched trusted institutions fail publicly. Promises evaporated. Rescues favored the powerful. Consequences landed on everyone else. This document didn't mention that crisis directly. It didn't need to. Its existence was a response. What made it different wasn't complexity. It was restraint. No extra features. No compromises. Only the minimum required to function without trust. And once published, it could no longer be controlled. Anyone could copy it. Anyone could run it. Anyone could challenge it. That's when the real risk began. Because ideas don't need permission to spread. They only need the right moment. And this one had arrived. Once released, the document stopped belonging to its creator. It belonged to whoever was willing to test it. Line by line, assumption by assumption. In public, early discussions were cautious, polite, academic. People searched for flaws. They expected shortcuts, hidden controls, some kind of authority buried in the design. They didn't find one. The system treated everyone equally. The rules applied without exception. If you followed them, you participated. If you didn't, you were ignored. No reputation, no privilege, no override. That simplicity unsettled people, because simplicity leaves no room to negotiate. As the first implementation went live, something unusual happened. It worked, slowly, imperfectly, but exactly as described. Transactions cleared without permission. Balances updated without oversight. A ledger formed without a keeper. Every success made the idea harder to dismiss. Still, it felt fragile. One bug could end everything. One exploit could erase trust before it formed. And yet, the system held. What truly alarmed observers wasn't the technology. It was the implication. If this model worked for money, what else could be removed from central control? Ownership, identity, coordination. Suddenly, the document looked less like a paper and more like a blueprint. That's when attention shifted. From curiosity to concern. From innovation to containment. Questions turned sharper. Who wrote this? Why now? And what happens if it scales? Because if millions adopted it, control wouldn't disappear. It would redistribute. And redistribution always threatens those at the top. But the most surprising part was a resistance. It was adoption. Quiet, organic, unstoppable. People didn't need to understand every detail. They only needed one thing, proof that it worked. And with every confirmed block, the proof accumulated. As adoption spread, pressure followed. Not from the edges, but from the center. Institutions began paying attention, not because they understood the code, but because they understood the threat. A system that couldn't be paused was dangerous. A ledger that couldn't be edited was unsettling. Money that couldn't be inflated or seized was unprecedented. Critics attacked its weaknesses. They pointed to speed, energy use, volatility. They questioned motives. They questioned intelligence. They questioned sanity. But the system didn't respond. It never argued. It never defended itself. It simply continued. That silence was powerful. Every failed critique strengthened its reputation. Every survived attack added credibility. Not because it was perfect, but because it was consistent. Meanwhile, the creator remained absent. No interviews, no clarifications, no public defense. Just code, running. That absence removed the target. There was no leader to discredit, no authority to pressure, no single point to shut down. Communities filled the vacuum. Developers proposed changes. Users argued philosophy. Forks emerged. Some failed. Some thrived. The ecosystem evolved in public. With growth came distortion. Speculation replaced curiosity. Profit overshadowed purpose. People chased price, not principle. And yet, beneath the noise, the original document remained unchanged. Its rules still enforced. Its supplies still fixed. Its logic still intact. That immutability became its anchor. In a world of shifting narratives, this system refused to adapt for convenience. The paradox was clear. Flexibility made institutions powerful. Rigidity made this idea unstoppable. By now, the question had shifted. It was no longer, can this work? It was, what happens if it keeps working? Because once people experience money without permission, returning to control feels like loss. The paper had done its job, not by persuading, but by existing, and the consequences were just beginning to unfold. The breakthrough wasn't technical. It was existential. A document written by no authority, created authority without rulers, not by force, not by persuasion, but by rules that treated everyone the same. That was the moment control slipped, not violently, not dramatically, but permanently. Institutions could criticize it. They could restrict access. They could warn the public, but they couldn't unwrite it. They couldn't recall it. They couldn't make it disappear. Because the paper was never the point. The idea was an idea that said trust could be optional. That coordination didn't require permission. That systems could outlive their creators. Every generation inherits assumptions about money, about power, about who decides the rules. This document challenged all of them at once. It didn't promise fairness. It didn't promise stability. It promised consistency. And in a world built on shifting agreements, that was enough. Today, the paper is still available, unchanged, unedited, still running. Most people will never read it. Many will misunderstand it. Some will exploit it. Others will build on it. But its true impact isn't measured in price. It's measured in possibility. Because once you see that authority can be replaced by structure, you start questioning every system built on control. What else could work without permission? What else could survive without leaders? What else had we accepted simply because we were told to? The white paper didn't escape control by accident. It escaped because control was never part of the design. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future, a